Sometimes you want to add a focal point over a background, but not have it completely obscure the background. Yeah, have you ever had that? I mean, you've spent so long building up this lovely textured, interesting background, only to be like, well, if I put something else on this, it's just going to cover all that yumminess up. So what do you do? I have some inspiration for you today to help you navigate around the covering everything up with a focal image issue. And we're going to make good use of translucent paint and really make it work hard for us today. So your background can be anything you want. It can be something relatively simple like mine, where I'm just using some different colours on a piece of mixed media paper and just applying it with a plastic card. You've seen me do this before. I really like how something as simple as doing this can give you quite a lot of texture in a background. But for your background, I mean, you could go even more textured with some mark making, some collage, stencils, stamping, whatever you like. The choices that you make with your focal image colours are going to be the ones that are the most important, but you can really help yourself a little bit later by keeping the background colours as light as possible now. So as you build up your background, try and keep to some lovely light colours, and it doesn't have to be all light. If you wanted to, it could just be a little bit lighter in the area that you plan to put your focal image if you've got an idea of where it's going to go. I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule, but it will definitely help you further down the line. This way you can have room to play with your translucent colours, and it's a lot easier to find translucent colours that will stick out from a light background than it is to find translucent colours that stick out from a dark background. Now, if you're not sure about the paint that you're using, whether it's opaque or if it's translucent or transparent, then the best way to test it out is to do some swatches with the paint first. So if you swatch the paint over a thick black line, you'll soon be able to tell what kind of paint you've got. So if you can see the paint through it, then it's going to be either transparent or translucent. If you can't see the paint through it, then it's opaque. And for this particular technique, you want to leave your opaque paint for building up the background. Don't bother using it for making your focal points for this particular technique. Obviously in other techniques you can use whatever you like, but for this one we're really concentrating on the translucent paints and in some cases the transparent paint. And your paint itself should actually tell you what it is, and many manufacturers will put where the paint lies in the transparent to opaque scale, and you'll find that on the tube either in writing or as a symbol, or you can check the colour chart that you can often find online for your paints if you haven't got one to hand. If you've done all this and you still don't know, then it might be that you've got a craft or a student paint that doesn't say. So yeah, go back to the black line, paint over a black line with it, and you'll soon find out. So I'm using an Amsterdam Acrylic Paints, and you'll find everything that I'm using in the description below as always. And I've picked an Indigo from the Expert series to paint my flower outlines. And this is a semi-transparent paint, so it's a translucent that's kind of closer to the transparent end of the opacity scale. I know, confusing, right? But I know from using this before that I'm going to get a really nice dark outline with it, that I will still be able to see that background coming through if I don't apply it too thickly. So from now on, I'm going to make sure that each of the colours that I'm using for my focal image is going to be either a transparent or translucent colour. And I'm not going to mix them with any opaques that might be sitting on my palette. And you'll be able to see how that works on this background, because what you're actually doing is adding something like a glaze over your background, but only in a specific area. So it's going to change the colour of what you see. I mean, imagine looking at the bottom part of this background through a coloured filter. It changes the colour of the whole thing. So if you were looking through a red filter, for example, it would make everything look a little red. And that's exactly what painting your focal image just with translucent paints is going to do. And you can use it to such great effect. It gives a totally different feel to the piece than using opaques, and you can still see that lovely background. So if you want to keep your background intact and you don't want to cover it up with a focal image, try painting the focal image with paints that you can see through. And another great thing about using translucent and transparent paint is that you can use it over your outline, which is great because then you don't have to go back over your outline to reinstate it. So I'm happily using my coloured paint over that indigo colour, and it's not really making much of a difference to the indigo because the indigo is so striking. And you can also vary up how much of the background you can see through the paint and also how much of a colour change you get by adding more layers of the paint or just add it more thinly in some areas. And another thing you can do with some acrylic paints is add a physical texture to it. And you see I'm doing that here with my pink and my red flowers, where I'm using my brush to just add in some thicker areas and thinner areas, but have them sort of coming out from the centre of the flower so they look like they're part of the structure of the petal. And this works well if your acrylic paint can hold textures. So heavy body paints will do well, but I can also do it with these Amsterdam acrylic paints too. And I really love this technique as the translucents add to the background, and it's a really simple method, isn't it? Now I do tend to choose opaque colours when I'm building up a page, so it's nice to change it up a bit every now and again and really get our paints working for us, isn't it? And picking the right colours to make that focal image is a great way to learn more about what your paints can do and how you can use them and manipulate them to get the looks that you want. So I have other mixed media videos to get you creating, so watch these next and I'll see you over there.